Hi everyone! With the second of 4 quarterly Canada carbon rebates coming into your bank account starting July 15th, we thought it'd be a good time to explain why the price on pollution is important and how the carbon rebate works. But before we begin, I think it's best to start with a frank discussion of the impacts climate change is having on our environment, our economy, and our health. Just last year, we had the worst fire season on record. Looking at this chart, we can see in 2023 alone, 15 million hectares of land were burned in forest fires across Canada. That's 150,000 kilometers. This is a bigger landmass than that of 104 countries around the world. And we lost this in the span of a year. Not only that, but this amount is also almost 7 times the average area recorded over the previous 25 years. In Ontario alone, the smoke from forest fires in Quebec over a 4-day span from June 4th to June 8th cost Ontario taxpayers an estimated $1.28 billion in healthcare expenses, while fighting the actual 700 forest fires cost Ontario taxpayers $237 million. These costs are set to increase every year. So far, in 2024, we've had 118 forest fires in Ontario. As we speak, 8 of those fires are still actively burning. What this tells us is that the impacts of climate change keep increasing, and so do the expenses. The Canadian Climate Institute, an independent research body, estimates that the health costs of climate change could reach $87 billion per year by 2050. On top of this, they project that ozone exposure caused by pollution could lead to over 270,000 hospitalizations and premature deaths in Canada. Without mitigation and adaptation strategies, these losses could leave everyday working-class Canadians worse off. What these numbers tell us is that the effects of climate change will cost Canadians more in the future than the adaptation measures we're putting in place now. It's as simple as this. For every $1 we spend today, Canadians will save $13 to $15 down the line in climate-related expenses. So as the impacts of climate change continue to accelerate and continue to cost Canadians billions in damages every year, Canada needs to have a real path to a carbon-neutral future. This is where our government's price on pollution and climate rebate come in. The price on pollution is a key part of the Government of Canada's emissions reduction plan. The rebate and pollution pricing are helping Canada meet our emission reduction goals by reducing 1/3 of all our emissions by 2030. Thanks to pollution pricing, we've had the strongest emission reduction performance among G7 nations over the past 2 years, and we're set to hit our emission targets for the first time in history. That's why Canada's carbon pricing system just makes sense. We know that the wealthiest 10% of Canadians are responsible for 1/4 of all emissions. So when we collect the price on pollution, the wealthiest Canadians end up paying the most, and the rest of Canadians, 8 out of 10, receive more in carbon rebates than they pay in the price on pollution. This year, the average Ontario household will receive $1,124 and pay only $869 in direct and indirect pricing costs. So not only is this a sound environmental policy, but it's putting more money back in the pockets of hard-working, everyday Canadians. In fact, research from the University of Calgary shows that the Conservative plan to cut the carbon price will only benefit those who make over $250,000 a year, while hurting all other Canadians. Less than 1% of Canadians make this amount. Just look at this image. Canadians making $50,000 or less, on average, receive far more than they pay in pollution pricing, while Canadians who make $250,000 or more are the only income bracket that pays more in pollution pricing. So who would really benefit if the carbon rebate was taken away? Working class Canadians or the rich? A price on pollution is also the most economically effective way to fight climate change. Canada's carbon pricing system is recognized by experts and institutions around the world, including the IMF and Nobel laureates. That's why more than 400 economists from every major university in Canada have signed an open letter defending our carbon pricing system. So as we work towards a carbon neutral future and a green economy, let's keep the cash and care for the environment.